Welcome back to Flop Files. Let's dive straight into this explainer and unpack how sweeping changes over at one of the world's largest platforms are literally rippling through our entire digital culture. Today, we're looking at X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and we're going to untangle this really complex web of policy shifts, algorithmic changes, and what all of this actually means for users, safety, and the broader media landscape. So, you might be wondering, how exactly does a digital town square suddenly turn into a fully monetized adult ecosystem? It's a wild question, right? But to answer it, we have to look beneath the surface of the most visible policy shifts happening on X right now. We're witnessing a fundamental transformation here. It's shifting from this hub of real-time news and public discourse into something, well, entirely different. Section 1. The new era of X, from town square to the adult content creator program. Let's start with the tip of the iceberg, which is X officially entering the regulated adult content space back in May 2026. And honestly, this isn't just some minor terms of service update, it's a massive structural pivot. X is basically greenlighting this content, as long as creators follow a very specific set of rules. While other platforms are heavily restricting or completely banning this stuff, X decided to build a walled, monetized garden for it right inside their existing app. Now, take a look at the sheer amount of red tape X is trying to slap on this system. On paper, it's a highly structured ecosystem. To join the Adult Content Creator, or ACC program, you can't just post anonymously. You actually have to hand over a government ID and tax documents. Content gets bucketed into a strict three-tier system: sensitive, adult, and explicit. And for that top explicit tier, viewers are supposedly forced through a third-party age verification wall. So, like I said, on paper, it's incredibly regimented. And this comparison brilliantly highlights what a massive outlier X is in 2026. Look at Meta, TikTok, YouTube. They all strictly prohibit this kind of content. While other tech giants are running away from the brand safety risks of not safe for work material, X is leaning all the way in, trying to capture a market that's pretty much locked out everywhere else. But, and this is a very big but, we hit a huge discrepancy here. There's a stark contrast between the structured policies X boasts about and the actual reality for young users. The rules promise one thing, but an alarming investigation by the Center for Countering Digital Hate showed that the platform's actual mechanics tell a very different story. Which brings us to Section 2, Algorithms and Teen Safety, the vulnerabilities of the For You feed. So how are the algorithms actually behaving when these supposed safeguards fail? To test this out, researchers set up a highly relatable micronarrative. They just made basic test accounts, posing as 13-year-old teenagers in the UK, and started making natural, curious searches. They wanted to know if those robust age gates and fancy three-tier systems actually kicked in when a kid typed a curious keyword into search. Okay, the data they found is absolutely staggering. 80% of searches for sexual terms returned explicit results right within the first 10 pieces of media. No age verification intervening. Literally zero prompts. No ID checks. The content was just sitting there, instantly accessible to an account registered to a 13-year-old. And it gets worse. After just a few of those searches, the algorithm shifted gears entirely, and 30.5% of the recommended posts in these teens' For You feeds became sexually explicit. So the crucial takeaway here is that the algorithm isn't passive, it is highly, highly reactive. It takes a single instance of curiosity and just rapidly reshapes the user's entire feed to serve up extreme material. And the compounding effect of this is terrifying. These teens weren't just passively seeing content. Out of 20 popular adult sexual communities, the teen accounts were able to join 15 of them with zero friction. They easily bypassed default safety settings for direct messages and actually started receiving unsolicited graphic contact from adults. This is exactly how you build a pipeline from algorithmic exposure straight into active grooming risks. Callum Hood from the CCDH kind of hit the nail on the head here. The real danger isn't just that the content exists somewhere on the servers. It's how rapidly the algorithm actively recommends it to a minor. The speed of the algorithm just totally outpaces the safety guardrails. Which begs the question, why are these guardrails failing so spectacularly in the first place? Section 3. The Trust and Safety Crisis. Peeling back the operational root causes. How did the platform get this porous? Well, look at these cuts. According to a transparency report from Australia's e-safety commissioner, X has drastically gutted its safety apparatus. We're talking an unbelievable 80% reduction in safety engineers globally. Public policy staff slashed by nearly 80%. The people whose literal job it is to build the digital fences and ensure compliance are simply no longer in the building. And when you slash your moderation workforce by more than half, the direct result is that harmful content stays up longer and user reports just gather dust. If the user is facing harassment in their DMs, the response time from the platform is now 75% slower. It's like removing all the referees in the middle of a highly competitive, sometimes dangerous game. And looking at this UNESCO data, you can see the scale of the problem. While platforms like X are busy restructuring and cutting safety teams, millions of users globally are still relying on these digital ecosystems every single day. You can see how deeply embedded platforms like X, Facebook, and TikTok are in countries from South Africa to Mexico to Romania. These aren't just websites anymore. They're global infrastructure. When their internal safety collapses, the real-world impact is vast. Section 4. Social media and enshittification, the macro-cultural fallout. This leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, the broader structural degradation of the platform itself. Have you heard of the term enshittification? It was coined by the brilliant journalist and blogger Cory Doctorow, and it perfectly encapsulates the feeling that the internet we used to love is slowly decaying into something hostile. It's all about how platforms degrade in quality over time. Doctorow lays out this incredibly predictable four-stage life cycle, where the relentless pursuit of monetization just strips all the original value away. First, they reel you in with an amazing user experience. Then, they tweak the algorithm to prioritize ads and sponsored content, locking you in. Then, they squeeze the publishers and businesses who rely on them to keep all the traffic in-house. Finally, the environment becomes so toxic that everyone just starts looking for the exit. For journalists, this decay is, well, it's impossible to ignore. Reporters who used to use the platform as this dynamic, real-time newsfeed are now finding it overwhelmingly unreliable during critical events. Journalist Tom Skaka noted this while trying to find updates during Hurricane Milton. What used to be the gold standard for breaking news has essentially become a maze where finding verified facts is nearly impossible. Now, a lot of folks are trapped by the sunk cost fallacy. They don't want to abandon their hard-earned follower counts. But the reality is the algorithm actively suppresses reliable news now in favor of highly polarizing content because that drives engagement. Studies in the source material actually found that users assigned to an algorithmic feed were pushed toward more polarized right-wing content compared to a chronological feed. And the economic fallout is brutal. UNESCO data notes that 678 digital outlets in Latin America alone have closed up shop, largely because platforms just refuse to link out to news sites anymore. Because of all this, we're seeing a massive migration. Creators and journalists are packing up and moving to less toxic alternatives like Blue Sky, Threads, and Mastodon. They're basically looking for spaces that resemble stage one of that cycle we just talked about. Platforms that still actually prioritize the user experience over aggressive monetization and non-stop engagement bait. So wrapping up this explainer, we're left with a really heavy question to ponder. If our digital town squares are fundamentally broken by design, where do we go to talk to each other tomorrow? How do we build online communities that balance free expression with actual, tangible safety, rather than just sacrificing one to boost the other's profits? It's absolutely crucial that we think about this the next time we scroll. Thank you so much for joining me here on Flop Files, and keep questioning the algorithms.